I was a little bit frightened coming after Mike Copeland, who Reese and I had a relationship through rugby with. And Mike is a good speaker. I know some of you are not very happy with him at the moment. But he is very good. He used to save us a fortune because we didn't have to have an MC for functions. We had it in-house, so it was very good. You'll note that I'm not using any aids, and you can blame the former Governor-General for that, because he performed very well at a function recently hosted by my wife when the thing didn't work. And I vowed never to rely on technology again. So thank you, Anne. It was very kind of you. But thank you for the opportunity to talk to you. I've sort of fashioned it along what Reese suggested. I'll talk about some of the experience I've had around where we fit in the world. You know, who are we? We still don't really know, but we've gone quite close once or twice, and now I'll talk some war stories to show how we've used different ways of solving problems, and then we should talk a little bit about pure New Zealand and Fonterra, because that actually gets quite serious, doesn't it, Kerry? So thank you for the invitation to come. I'm delighted to be here, a bit intimidated by the quality of the members of this club. Great to see lots of women here. I don't know if this is, not being a Rotarian, I don't know if that's the form or not, but I do have one association with Rotary through, I'm a trustee of the JR Trust that Peter McKenzie used to chair. It was sort of the stump end of things when they sorted out the McKenzie fortune, and there was $10 million, well it's $10 million now left on the side. So they set it up, and we manage that fund and pay what we can to the JR McKenzie Trust for their donations for their program. But Peter, when he got quite ill recently, before he died, he started looking at this and saying, this is stupid, this is a small trust that's going to go on ad infinitum forever, just earning money and paying out little dividends. You know, he felt that trust should have more credibility and more status and actually do something worthwhile, something significant. And he looked at the American system where trusts, I think, can't go for more than 25 years. They have to run themselves down. And he developed a proposal or a philosophy that said, why don't we change this trust and try to do more significant things? And then we added to it, let's try to get one major project going that we can quantify the effects of. And it would be within the area where Rotary and the McKenzie Trust focus very, very closely, ethnicity and kids. And it's called, and I do have approval to tell you this because it's not out in the open at the moment. Is Joan Smith here? You know I've got approval. You were there when I asked for it. It's called Toby, and I'm really excited about this because I think one of the weaknesses we have in charities in New Zealand is we don't really know what's going on. You know, there's no feedback, there's no accountability. And if we can develop a project, we can quantify the effects, publish those effects, and then challenge others in the area to do likewise, I think we can start making some real progress with the issues that face us all. So that's the end of my little bit there, but so I'm delighted to be here and be able to talk about that. So where do we fit? We're a little country. We're not a particularly wealthy country. At the end of the world, we've had real problems with distance over the years. Technology is changing that. But when we look at ourselves, we don't have much of a culture. In fact, we don't really have a culture we defend, unlike bigger, more affluent countries. We're a bit like a chameleon. We change colour to suit. And that works really well for us in our international relationships. And I will give you some example. But the fact that we don't have a culture to defend means we don't get put in a corner. We don't also have much money, so we don't go out solving our problems with money. We look for more inventive ways of meeting the challenges that we're faced. So I'm going to tell one or two war stories to try to explain the difference. When we built that ammonia plant, Muldoon bought it, didn't take it to cabinet. They had a take or pay agreement with natural gas. They had to take the gas, whether they're going to use it or not. So he thought, we'll get some of the gas use. Bought this thing. No one had any idea what was going on. So we built it. For some reason, they made me the CEO. It cost us about 120 million. It was a lot of money in those days, back in 81. Up in Taranaki, up at Kapuni. It passed all its performance tests. That was great. We started producing this stuff. We produced the first 15,000 tonnes of this new granulated urea that was guaranteed not to all stick together, as it tends to do. It's hygroscopic. Put 15,000 tonnes in a boat, sold it to Cargill Corporation, sent it off to the Mississippi. When they come to unload it, it was one granule, a 15,000 tonne granule. So the board said, go and fix it. So I went off there, and I didn't know what to do really. We got a Russian crusher in, and we were crushing this stuff, and it was dust and awful stuff, and it's sticky. It was revolting. But I was in New Orleans, and that was an advantage, especially in the weekends with the jazz. But Cargill sent down a young guy, and I made a point of getting to know him because I knew I didn't have any answers to this. And he gave me some really important information, that he had a new girlfriend, a new sports car, and he was taking her to a ball on the Saturday week. So I knew I had time. So I just slowed the whole negotiation off down. He should never have told me. Slowed it down and down and down. And he just got desperate, and we settled for very little in the end. It saved us. So time does work. And it's because we didn't have the money. But then we still had the problem. We had a factory that didn't work. And it had passed its performance tests. It was built by two Japanese firms. So we started looking around. We saw that Norsk Hydro in Norway were the only people in the world with the same sort of technology. So I took an engineer and I went off to Norsk Hydro to ask them what our problem, how to fix our problem. Met with them there, and they said, sorry, our board have told us we're not allowed to tell you anything. So I thought, oh, here we go. So I said, well, but you know, come out one day, if you're ever out our way, come and I'll see what I can show you. Oh, they said, well, coming to Australia to a fertiliser conference. I said, well, come over. So they came over, and as we do, we had a few beers each night, and we showed them what we could, and they didn't do a thing. And I thought, And we're driving them back to the airport up at New Plymouth, and they said, stop the car. Out of the tape. And it worked. Still had another problem. It was going to cost $7 million to do this. So now we had to go to the Japanese. And what do you do with the Japanese? Well, it's passed its performance test, but it didn't work. So I took some advice from, actually an old Aussie, I have to admit, about how you deal with these guys. And we came up with a strategy was that we had an advantage. We knew the answer we wanted. So we had to get them to negotiate. So the first step, we had to show we're serious. So we took the board up there, and I said to the board, I'm going to make a presentation. You're never to say anything. Just look at the Japanese guy opposite you, which is what they do to us. And it worked. The Japanese fell apart in the end because, they would say yes, which means I'm listening, or I hear you. It doesn't mean I agree with you. And then stop. And they fell. And then, so they agreed to a formal negotiation at management level. And we then developed a system again. We had to do something. We couldn't afford the money. But we knew the answer. So we knew where we wanted to get to, and we took control of the agenda and the minutes so that we gave them all the credit of everything that happened, and then set up, pointed their noses in the right direction later on, and then claimed to have sent a copy to the Prime Minister of New Zealand and Bill Birch, the Minister of Energy. Not that we ever sent it to them. So they thought they were dealing with it. And it all worked. Within 3 days, they'd agreed to spend $7 million and fix the problem. And that was because we subjugated our culture to their culture. We gave them all the credit. Doesn't matter. We just wanted the result. And that's really one of our strengths. And the whole thing really worked extraordinarily. I'm hugely proud of that. But it's because we're Kiwis. This is what we can do. We can look for unique solutions. Enza gets a little bit Oh, I should talk about the America's Cup. One more question. What was the greatest day of my life? And where was I? And what did I do? San Diego. I got picked up by Black Magic afterward, won the last race, and we sailed him. We physically picked up the old mug. Francis, eat your heart out. I'll tell you, it was the most extraordinary thing. And then they had a party for us the next day, and they wouldn't even shout us a drink. The Americans would. They used to slash my tyres because I had New Zealand decals on it. So that was, I could have talked about the America's Cup for a while. Enza, where I did get involved in the America's Cup, and what really got me thinking about talking about this was, I was at Auckland Airport going somewhere one day, and I bumped into two Japanese shipping company guys who we dealt with. We used to charter a lot of vessels. And we had a lot of fun, and we laughed, and we carried on for about half an hour, and then they left. And two Americans who were in the Corrie Club up there came up to me and said, look, we saw what went on. Excuse us for being a bit rude, but how do you get a relationship like that with the Japanese? You know, we deal with them. We don't have any relationship with them. And without thinking, I said, they have to believe you like them. And that was the answer. I mean, the Americans defend their culture and their values, and, you know, they are strident about it all. All the Japanese want is acknowledgement that their culture is superior to ours. We can do that in New Zealand. The Americans have trouble doing it. They really, really, really do. But probably the biggest challenge I had was we developed the brand Enza and researched it to death. And the patent attorneys, John D. Ellis isn't a member here, is he? I hope. Used to be. Oh, good. Well done. Well done. Very good friend. That we were at play school together as kids. John D. Ellis came up and said, look, there's one little problem in the registration of this brand. There's a company called Inshausen Zadenwinkel in Holland that produce seeds, which is in the same category for patent. No, I said, don't worry about it. So we went and we spent millions and we got this thing up and we launched it, and I get a letter from Holland saying, why have you stolen our name? So here we go again. I go to the board and they say, well, you can spend $5 million solid, but we've got to keep the brand. So Jonty and I went off to Holland, and it was right up the hook of Holland, right as far as you can go. We drove and drove and drove. Got to Inshausen Zadenwinkel and sat there waiting to meet with the chairman, and we're reading their company literature. And their two slogans were, pray and work hard, and in God we trust. I thought, Jonty and I aren't the two best people to deal with these guys. Slightly irreverent as we were. But we managed again to be being hugely polite to them and respectful of everything, and that's the respect is probably a better word than like. To explain that we were a government company and Enza meant eat New Zealand apples, and we wouldn't use it on seeds ever. And within a day we walked out with a total clean bill of health. And if an American had been going in there or a Japanese had been going in there, I don't think we would. We can do it because we are seen. We're not seen as threats. You know, we aren't pushing anything down people's throats. Probably the one that really summed up best was we produced an apple called Royal Gala, unique to New Zealand. We were getting huge premiums worldwide with it. And out of the blue, a month earlier than we could harvest, Royal Galas arrived in Europe and were selling at a cheap price. We found they came from Brazil. Brazil producing. So we go over and see these guys in Brazil. It turns out it's a third generation Japanese potato growing cooperative that is producing and exporting these things. So we arrive at their office, got taken straight up to the director's dining room, always on the top floor, and had lunch with them. By 4:30 that night, we had an agreement we would be their exclusive marketers and handle it for 5 years. We would arrange for it, do everything for them, and they were happy. So the next day I went back to to tidy things up. And I said to the guy we're dealing with, why was it so easy? He said, you were the first people in 3 generations that respected our custom. You knew how to eat lunch. We weren't Americans eating with a fork and no knife. We were using our chopsticks properly. They just loved the fact we knew how to handle the cards, we knew how to handle chopsticks. And that's a huge strength, our ability to move around the world and just do things to suit the people we're working with. We developed, it was at a time that New Zealand was getting out of commodity branding, or commodity selling and getting into branding. We had a huge food fair going in Anuga. Our wine industry was coming of age. We were looking to get control of distribution in all our markets. And so we decided up there, a point of difference, we would have a restaurant up there with New Zealand food and wines. And the chef could only source things from the stands, all the people participating. And we did quite a lot of trading to get things from other countries. And so we ran this wonderful restaurant. We had Ruth Pretty up there for a while. We had Annabelle Langbein. It was good. But it got really popular. And then we saw that other people were trying to get in, going in there and demanding to be served and everything. So we said to the Germans, can you please put up a sign that this is for members only? So they put up the sign. The next day, there was a sign in German there, and people were laughing their heads off. And I said, why are they laughing? Oh, the sign. What's wrong with the sign? Do you know what it means? I said, no. It's for people with penises only. So sometimes we're a bit too naive, really. I don't think that worked particularly well. But all that's background to where we are now. Now we fell in love with Professor Michael Porter from Harvard. He came out here. He talked about sustainable competitive advantage as being the only thing that matters, and we've forgotten that. We did some interesting work, and we then got an amazing woman in England to really look at developing a New Zealand brand. And she worked away for about 3 years, came up with wonderful analysis organisation. We tested it around the world, and it was actually the Germans that said, where's the Maori element? We had left a Maori element, and it's so important that that was there. And we developed a thing called the New Zealand Way. You may have heard of it. And it was a joint venture between trade and tourism, of which I was the chair of this joint venture with tourism as the other partner. We wanted government to take ownership of it. We wanted it to be controlled by legislation. It was so important. But the New Zealand Way was very clever. It was saying we're slightly handmade, we're not square. You know, the whole thing is, and it can apply to anything. It can be applied to manufactured goods, or the way we operate, or the things that we produce. And we set it up. We had some really good people running it up in Auckland. And my mates, Kerry, well before your time, walked out on us. And when I look now at what's happened, you know, we forgot all the stuff that Michael Porter taught us about sustainable competitive advantage, being able to quantify things, being able to present things, being able to back up claims. Brands about personality and integrity. Pure New Zealand, 100% pure, is not a brand, it's a strapline. As the Saatchi guy admitted the other day to the media, dumb bugger that he is, he just added the 100% on the plane and that was it. You don't produce brands sitting on a plane flying somewhere. They're hard work, and we've lost that, and we've actually lost. So I'm not blaming Fonterra. Fonterra will always have problems, but you know they shouldn't have fallen for the trap of the 100% pure. It is not a brand, and the sooner we get away from it, the better. The longer we're there, the bigger the hole that we dig for ourselves. So it's a bit sad, really. We were so close, and the awareness was there, and the industries were there. But you know, I suppose John Luxton's not here today, so I can say it's probably part of the deregulation. You know, we gave too much authority away. Thank you for nodding. She's my sage. I lost her when she went. I gained Russ actually when I lost. Anyway, it's a very small world. So that's really where I wanted to get to. That we've got a hell of a lot going for us. We need to continue this lovely, naive openness, homeliness that we've got. We're not a threat to anyone because we can't back anything up, but we have to get a hell of a lot more professional in the way that we back up our claims and present ourselves. So thank you very much. No, I don't think it did. If anything, it was the other way around. I mean, we wanted to do it. We wanted to be totally slick, but we wanted to keep the character of the brand, and that's the New Zealand way. It's no one else's way. It's ours. It's who we are, and to celebrate who we are in the way that we did it.